Living the good fat life with your host Karen and Sherri. They'll help everything align for your body, soul, and mind. The good fat life, whether change comes slow or dramatically. The good fat life will help you sort things out organically.
Makes us laugh every time, doesn't it, Sherri?
Yeah, it's just soothing. I heard on as I was driving over here, they said, "What things have you been doing since COVID to ground you?" And I was like, listening to our podcast song,
right?
By Wally Pleasant.
Yeah, thank you, Wally.
So and reading our Good Fat Life magazine, that's been really helpful. And we encourage anyone to go subscribe for it. goodfatlife.com. You can get a free digital subscription. So
check it out.
And keep grounded during all this crazy.
Right?
So So how are you doing, Karen?
I'm doing good. Last week was weird. This week is also weird, but it seems more positive. What about you?
Okay. Yeah. No, it's been great. And my family's here and I have the grandkids around. So
that's the good stuff, right?
It is the good stuff. And I forgot how unpredictable your days are when you have little ones around, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So it's very cool. And we have a very special guest with us today.
Yes.
Michelle Clausen Merrigan.
You got it.
Got it right.
I don't know why.
There's
too many things there, though.
You can
shorten it.
It sounds like a story there.
And I gave my kids hyphenated names. And so it's like, what was I thinking?
Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to let go of my paternal grandpa's name. It was just important to be in their names.
Yeah.
But
thank you for being here today.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
She's with mkadvisors.org and she's got an amazing story to tell. So why don't we just kind of start at the beginning, Michelle?
Let's let you tell it.
Beginning.
Which beginning?
I know there's so many pieces. So I will say I met Michelle because she has this box called Mana. And let's start there because it's a fascinating story. And she's literally what she and her friend Annie have done in South Africa have made it possible for thousands of families to manage and thrive and bring their brilliance to the world. So I just get chills even thinking about it, right?
I still do too. And it's weird when you birth something and then it's like you have the child and you look at the child and you're like, I created that? Like, how did that thing come out of me?
Yeah.
That's exactly how I feel about Monoboxes.
Can I stop you right there and
Please.
ask you what brought you to start the Monoboxes? And then maybe you can first tell us what they are and then tell us how you started that or maybe in the reverse order, whatever makes sense for you.
So Monoboxes is MANA and Mana is a Polynesian term. I lived in Hawaii as a child. And so in the Hawaiian tradition, Mana, which I didn't really know as a child, I was witness to, but not until I was an adult going back and working there did I see what Mana really was. But Mana in the Polynesian tradition is an energy that you can put between two people. I can share my energy with you. You can feel it when I'm in the room, right? It can be an energy between two things. This is from a very special fence in South Africa, which we'll talk about. And that energy placement of things, right? Or it can also be between two countries, two relative entities. It doesn't really matter.
Can it also be thoughts as well? It's a vibration.
So if you think about prana, manna from heaven, karma, these all have the similar ties. In Polynesia, it takes it to another level, right? It becomes mana that you can force into objects and rather than just mana from heaven.
Okay.
Right?
And how do you take it from the spiritual and the conscious realm into an object?
Oh, wow. That is the birthing pains, right? Like, how do we have babies? It's really hard to explain that process. How do they grow in your body?
Right.
How do you then take them through the phases and then give birth to them appropriate timing? That was, in this case, my primary business, MK Advisors, is really about energy, power, water, light, resources, right? We had no intention of doing high-end fashion goods, but COVID hit. And a few things happened during COVID. We launched another thing called Protectalineorg, where we were 3D printing PPE because nobody was getting PPE to the VA, the Veterans Administration. And then very quickly we moved into Monoboxes because my best friend Annie in South Africa, who has personally seeded, financially and otherwise advised multiple hundreds of women all over South Africa for years and years and years. And these women were all experiencing the depths of sorrow for feeling helpless and lost. And the helplessness and feeling lost was directly tied to their inability to predict and manage what COVID's effect were going to be on their companies, on their families, and then widespread, right? People say that business is business and it's not personal. That's actually not how women work in business. It's all personal. They're babies. They're families, right?
Right.
And so when we were hit in the face with that reality, it's a longer story than probably today, but basically it was a reality that we had to do something. And if we didn't do it, shame on us. We had all the tools. We had the toolkit. We have everyone who has not only the passion to make a change, but also have years of experience of doing it. Why wouldn't we apply that here? So I know more about energy storage technology, batteries, inverters, than I do about fashion.
Is it
Luckily,
almost
those
like
in South Africa do?
Is it almost like being an alchemist for yourself and an alchemist for the world? And when you talk about using energy and water and air, is it sort of in the same way, mana and alchemy? Not the same, but it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, I do think it's a parallel thought because, and I didn't put this together before you just said that. In Hawaii, mana is an energy that in their physical world that they describe for, hundreds, if not thousands of years, moves stones. Like Rapa Nui, Easter Island. Their tradition in that Polynesian island is that their mana moved stones, right?
Right.
And so if you go back and you look at, and I'm a geek among all of the geeks, like I read all the old history, I read all the ancient texts, and the ancient texts talk that if you put your energy into things and you say that mountain needs to move, the mountain moves. Now, I don't know how that works in real life. I've just only seen it in this world that I get to walk into and occasionally say that mountain's stupid and needs to get out of here. We're done with that mountain.
Yeah.
And
I think we all know those mountains.
And we agree.
Yeah.
And then we either cross it, we build a bridge over it, or we just go right through it. That's kind of been the mantra of this woman tribe that I get to be a part of.
That it will happen.
It will happen.
It will happen. That's lovely. Wow.
That's the mana. If you put it in, the story, Sherri. I mean, these women were going through the worst of times. And a lot of these women are already in places where it's the worst. Like they have no upward trajectory because their skin color, their native background, their skill set, their resources, right? But they have something. There is mana in everyone. And all you have to do is give people the right toolkit and they create it. And I know that about the developing world, or what I call third world economies. Those economies that are developing on mama's backs. I mean, it's mamas who build these communities. And so if you give a mama a tool, she's going to apply it and spread it everywhere. Sometimes if you don't give a mama a tool, it'll be held in a secret room, tucked in the corner where one person can get it. Probably not a woman, because she'll just give it to everyone, right? To capitalize and monetize and make profit off of. Monoboxes was not about profit. We prepaid these women because we knew that they had to have the income revenue now. If they didn't have it, they were all going out of business, right? So what started as a couple of dozen women that we thought, okay, we can work, we can find something here, turned into 33 suppliers, which we thought was a few hundred women. It turned out it was 1,800 women.
Wow.
And those 1,800 women have families, and they've been telling us their stories for the past several months about what happened when we prepaid them for something that we could not prove was going to be valuable.
So that's faith.
Yeah.
That, just is like such faith.
Faith
and also listening to your gut and your intuition and just saying, I don't know how this is going to work, but we're going to make it work. Right.
Yeah. That's the hardest part, I think, for most people. I felt like so I meditate. A lot of people I know, spend time daily praying and meditating, whatever form that is, connecting. I think, Albert Einstein called it no time, when he had no time, which is just to be there. So COVID, weird blessing on the other side, is I have had a lot more time to do that. I'm not traveling 50% of my life, which I was before and I love, but that means that I have more time to myself. And so during that is when things kind of get really clear in your face, right? And so after my best friend Annie and I were trying to sift through these women and what they were dealing with. And I mean, a lot of these companies Annie had helped birth, right? So she feels connected. It's like a baby, right? And I felt that because I'm so connected to her. We always say we're soulmates and we have no idea how that happened because we have no real similar background, but it's all so congruent, right?
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense. But when that happened, I went to meditate and I just told her, I'm like, every time I don't know what to do, I just go pray, meditate, and
the next step comes in.
Yeah.
Well, we always say here, if you don't go within, you go without. So you always have to seek within, and it's there.
Harsh reality, huh?
Yeah. So can you walk us through how the Monoboxes work, like logistically?
So I'll explain this. We found first all the supplies we could use, right? And we had a filter for not only the supplies, but also the companies. So the companies had to be hiring women primarily, right? They needed to have a high group of women involved. It needed to be owned by a woman so that we could track the process. And they needed to pay the women more post-COVID or during COVID than they were pre-COVID, because we knew that there was a deep well that was forming. And that deep well was if you kind of picture soil, right? If you have dry soil and it rains once, it just seeps down, right? But if that soil is nurtured and it has more rain, it has more water over time, then it'll flood. It's an abundance of water, right? Mm-hmm. These people have been living in a very desert economy, personally and regionally. And so they're already at the depths of the bridge of survival and not. Mm-hmm. And so when we came in and said, let's figure this out, we were trying to pinpoint that and then give them more than they would need in a typical environment. And they're not in a typical environment. And so through that, we found 33 suppliers, which had really great high-end goods. And my best friend Annie just sifted through one thing after the other. And by the way, during the time where she was building a house, she's moving, she has an autistic stepson that can't go back to his home because of COVID, and it's full time. And she's got her primary company she's trying to keep surviving, and, right? And still somehow she found a way to make these goods work and to find what would make the most sense. Then we prepaid. We have had a task force through this whole time with women from all over the world that have been donating their time to see this through, which is amazing, right? We wouldn't have had the same we wouldn't maybe have done the same things had we had more time and less crisis, but we were very crisis oriented. So you have to kind of pre-position things and then plan, get them down and then execute. We didn't have preposition time, right? Mm-hmm. We had to just get it on the ground. So we, in 8 weeks, these 1,800 women handmade every one of these 33,000 items. Wow. Those 33,000 items in 8 weeks went through quality control and then were transported into the United States through Michigan, through Battle Creek, and into a foreign trade zone. That foreign trade zone is also owned by a wonderful minority family who has great ties to South Africa. And a lot of women have been working on it from their side as well. The The boxes are packaged for quarterly subscription. So anyone can come in at any time and they're going to get a quarter's worth of boxes. So it's one box a quarter.
Okay.
Each box has about 5 to 10 items in it that are both packaged for you, but also if you want to give it.
Okay.
So Mana is also about giving,
Mhm.
right? And so it's packaged like that. So if you sign up, you get the whole year's worth, or you can also say, well, I just want to try one box. And one box has still 5 to 10 items in it
Mhm.
that are built for your friends are all away because you can't see them during COVID. Send them your Mana. And in that box, they'll have cards of these women and their stories, the women who actually made the items that are in those boxes.
Why don't you read one of the cards?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pick one. So I go to parties now. Parties.
Yeah.
A party is like when my daughter has volleyball.
All right.
Anyways, I take the cards out and I hand them and I say, everyone pick one. And everybody will pick one. And I say, now put it on your mirror and pray for that woman.
Oh.
And pass to Mana.
Yeah.
So this is Geironija. Jeronia. I'm not going to get that right. Beautiful woman. She says, my wish is to retire from work someday soon. I'd like time to relax and do things for myself at the age of 65 that I am. The person that I admire the most is my manager, Vincent. He's a good man and I've learned many skills from him. It's always a pleasure to work for him. So this is just one of the beautiful stories. The interesting thing that happened the other night, we have a woman named Edna, and her cards aren't in here, and because I gave them away. And Edna was really creating a lot of business for these women. She's a deep backstory, but during COVID, she was losing everything. And so we just found out recently that she was being kicked out of her home and with her 3 children. And so we rallied together. We have something called a partnership stabilization fund, wherein each profit, we don't have any profit now, but when the profit starts to come in, 1% of that profit will go to this partnership fund. Mm-hmm. And so that as they have issues throughout the year, we can stabilize those issues. And why not? Because there's enough profit if we do this business right to go around for all these women. We just prepaid them knowing that it's going to happen.
And when you select the women or they come to you, do you teach them what Mana is before you have them start working on the things that they have a full understanding? Is there a teaching of Mana or like a classes about Mana? Or
it's interesting. Yeah. Had we done it in a real world setting where time wasn't compressed around us with COVID, we would have had official training, right? What happened as a result of not having that time was that we put together a WhatsApp thread. You know, everybody internationally uses WhatsApp. It's easy to trade information. And so I'm still on it with these hundreds and hundreds of women. And what ended up happening was they would talk to each other and say, I have this woman who is making this necklace. We don't have this fabric. And then another woman would speak up and say, I have that fabric. I have that supplier.
Oh, so they started getting it.
And they started working together and collaborating. And that probably is the most beautiful thing about what Mana does. That is the Mana. And so every time that would happen, I'm in the background and they know me as Mish. In Africa, they call me Mish, Mishy, Mish. It's always different. And so they're like, Mish, Mish, you know, and every time I will speak up, they're paying attention because they think like I brought them gold, right? And I didn't.
They had it.
I to be fair, I financed gold. I funded it.
Yeah.
They had the gold.
Right.
I just funded it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I would speak up and say, guys, this is the Mana. This is that. What you don't know about Mana now, because it's a Polynesian term and you're in sub-Saharan Africa, it can relate to your world as soon as you do it. And when you do it, we show you, and then you're that's the Mana. That's the power of it.
In their culture, are they allowed to think freely about Mana and those kind of things in different religions?
South Africa actually is. So South Africa is a melting pot of Africa, but also Europe. And it's very much, I used to go, I mean, I've been going since I was 18 and I would buy my wardrobe there because it was like, you'd get the best quality for low prices because your US dollar goes a lot further there. That's part of how we were able to make this work. And so, I mean, but the fashion, it's just gorgeous. You can't even imagine it. Being in the south of Africa, that's a place where a lot of things were coming and going in terms of transport and trading.
Great.
And so because of that, there's a lot of incredible things there. So no, I think they really were a first world economy in a third world environment.
Gotcha.
Which is the challenge. And so we had to kind of bring a different economy to them, which really nobody will really do if there's not a big profit behind it. And we just said, forget about it. Let's just break even on this first cycle. If we lose money in this first cycle, that's where our learning is to make it better the next time. And then we just keep going and we keep these suppliers working, making more and more unique goods that you could only find in South Africa.
Are you still looking for people to provide goods and services for your workers and expand it?
I would love to say yes, but the demand is so high. We have so much in terms of incredible creativity. People are entrepreneurs in these environments. I'm just saying and I've done, we didn't get into this exactly, but I've done energy work and building microgrids in communities where there's no high-low, there's no Home Depot, there's just physical brute force, and then hopefully a little bit of wisdom and brain, if you can, turn it into that environment, because we're just not used to working in that environment as the Western world. We show up
which
and
is
there's
fascinating.
Yeah,
there's a
right?
Home
plug in.
Depot.
The
Yeah.
creativity is phenomenal.
It's amazing.
And
And
what
it's-
people can do because that's what they know.
Yeah. Literally
Right,
out of
right.
energy in the air and the mana.
That's what happens.
And
You
yeah.
pull it when you don't have, and this is, some of my backstory I didn't have growing up. When you don't have in certain areas, emotional, physical, it doesn't matter, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like if you don't have one of those things met, you tend to see it when other people need it. And so for me, because my backstory was really hard, and, leaving home at 16 and everything, I learned to notice suffering when I saw it. And I would just, my innate nature, maybe because I didn't have a lot of people bringing me tools
Mm-hmm.
in my background, I just want to bring them the tools. And so that's really what we did here. But it wasn't, and I hate when anyone would think that there's these Americans saving these South Africans. Nah,
That's
Mhm.
not at all.
Yeah.
These women have been praying over these items. I get messages on WhatsApp of videos of them holding things and saying, bless these women, give them, that's a mana.
Mhm.
That is, it doesn't matter what form factor it comes in.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter if it's a Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, it doesn't matter. It's the energy we put into things. That's the thing that creates life. I mean, that's it.
And I think that comes back with Good Fat Life. That's
Mhm.
like our whole genesis, if you will, is making those connections.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's fascinating when you see somebody who can take relatively nothing and create beautiful things out of it. It's inspiring.
Right.
And it also puts you in a different space.
Right.
Our Western world, we have so much and we have so little at the same time. And
It also takes you in a healing space, right? Because I'm sure when your background was happening to you at the time, you probably thought of it as a huge bummer and a total negative, right? But how has Mana helped you for peace and forgiveness for your background and how you're being able to make it such a positive? Have you been able to make peace with that?
Yeah, well, gosh, years and years and years of therapy in any form that they'll give me, right? Any form I can afford at the time.
Yeah.
And in the case of, my upbringing, I didn't really have a lot of clear examples, but I did have like true grit. I mean, that was kind of built into us.
Yeah.
And so, growing up as a military brat, everywhere we moved was a new environment, new people. You're the different one, right?
Karen can relate to that.
Yeah.
You're always the outsider, right? And so you learn to feel comfortable as the outsider while also finding ways to kind of navigate being inside, right? And that's just the nature of all military brats that I know, right?
I was a military wife with 2 military brats over 22 years, so I totally get
There
it.
you go. So my husband, 24 years Army, so 4 military brats of his own.
Yeah.
My kids don't even understand what that means, right? Because they weren't raised in it. But it's a very specific kind of MO that you end up of having. So I had that grit. Mana really didn't affect me until I went back to Hawaii when I was 30. So I was living in Hawaii as a kid. We moved to the mainland, I don't even know, when I was young. And then I was always the minority in every room we were in because we were in Meridian, Mississippi. And I went to a school where I was the odd one out. And it changed my life. And I learned what mana meant then, but I didn't have I didn't have a word for it. I knew that if I walked into any room with those women and those men in that school and in that community, and I was bullshitting them, they would see it on my face and call it out. It required me to be authentic. And that authenticity is what creates the mana. You don't give fake mana. You can't.
Right.
It's impossible.
Yeah. There's no fauna.
There's
right?
no fauna. There is no fauna. There's no fake mana. So it comes from an authentic place. I learned that through, high school years.
Yeah.
And then now going forward, I mean, I put it into action when I was really, really sad this past year for a lot of different reasons. I would go to these women's stories on our WhatsApp and I would use that as, okay, focus.
Yeah.
This isn't, your pain is one drop in the bucket. That drop in the bucket can have a lot of effect if you don't let it just be a drop. Let's let that pain become a ripple. It doesn't mean that it has to stay with you. It means that it has a point. It has a purpose. And so for me, unfortunately, the best and the worst at the same side, my pain and my background has been both devastating and also empowering. And so because of that, I've not let that drop in the bucket just go to waste and blend in with the rest of the water. I make sure that drop creates the splash and then the ripples, because otherwise the pain is for naught. Right. And I don't want my pain to be in vain, and nobody else does. Yeah. They want to make something out of it.
Well, that is mana as well. In every second, there's a baby that's born and is crying and it's joyful. And there's a baby that's crying and dying in the same moment. And that's sad. And that is mana. It's like, life, death, and the creation in between, right?
It's that gray area that I think humanity has not become comfortable with, but because we've lived in the extremes. I mean, if you just look back, and like I said, I'm a history buff, and I like ancient history. We have been killing each other as long as we've had consciousness or had written or oral tradition, right? There's one consistent in humanity, which is we just keep killing each other. And in my mind, the reason that we keep killing each other is because we believe that the system that we're built on is built on a common denominator of chaos. We believe chaos is our form factor. The earth is going to explode. The sun's going to explode. Blah, 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 blah. Everything's going to burn up. And so who cares, right? And so we don't even act. We become complacent because everything's going to go to shit. But that's not the truth. The truth is that if you look out into the planets like Pythagoras did, and he says, wow, everything is in this crazy harmony. The planets work in harmony. The sun works in harmony. Everything's in harmony. So actually, humanity has been misdiagnosing our common denominator. We've been calling it chaos. It's actually coherence. Everything works together. And I'm not saying that everything is good that happens. That's not true, right? One of the beautiful women who has donated her time to this project. Her niece was just in a tragic car accident where 8 immigrants were killed, head-on collision, because the police were chasing them, and they hit my friend Fran's niece. And you look at that and you say, how can all things work together for the common good of those who love whatever this is we're connected to if that happens? There's no way to know that here now.
Right.
It's the after effect. When you read the end chapter of the book, all of the other chapters make sense, even if it was bad. And that's kind of how I look at my trauma, my pain is that, okay, it's just a chapter. I'm going to get through it. 2020 was one of the hardest years I've ever had because I really do carry people's weight. It's just my nature as an empath. Yeah. Very empathetic. And so it was really, really hard for a number of reasons, but that's what gets you through is that this is just
that's how we grow.
Peace. Yeah. You have to be able to have circumspection.
Well, and we've talked earlier too about how you never know what piece you learned 20 years ago or 40 years ago or last week
Mhm.
is
That will
going to come
apply.
in
Mhm.
to apply. And, as a creative, the creative process always comes out of attention.
Mhm.
Something is missing.
Yeah.
Something needs to happen, whether it's you and yourself just have this energy that needs to do something, but there's a creative tension and you can't create without it.
Yeah.
And it's part of it. And so
Yeah.
where that tension comes, it can come from a gazillion different places.
Yeah, tension leads to intention, right?
It's- right.
And I think that this is the thing that I love about women. And I'm not saying men don't have it. They do. A lot of men have it, but it's environmental. In us, it's not environmental. It is built in. It is wired, right?
Mhm.
When we see something that's wrong as mamas, we stand up and fight against that. It doesn't matter if we've had a baby or not. There's something genetically
Right.
Mhm.
that pushes us to say, yeah, that, and it creates a tension, right? Inside of us. You're angry about something, you're frustrated, and
Or you're
Charged.
charged.
Yeah.
charged. And
Yeah.
for me, by the way, I mean, this has been a joke in all of my companies. My last company specifically was, when MK gets pissed off, like we go change the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if I see that there's a gap, we're going to set our intention.
Mhm.
That's the difference, right?
Right.
That tension is not a negative. We would look at
No,
it as a
you
yin
have
and yang.
to have it.
It's
you
a
have to
progression.
have it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if you didn't have that yin, you wouldn't have
Mhm.
the yang, right?
Right.
Like,
Right.
You can't stay in one or the other. You can't stay in all the good and all. You can't. It's a balance.
Yeah.
It's a giving and receiving.
right.
And that's another thing with women. We don't want to receive, and if we don't receive, we're not doing our job in the universe as well. We have to give and receive.
As
give and
women,
receive.
we have been shamed to think, or we have shamed ourselves to think, that if we receive, that we are doing something wrong,
Mhm.
that we are
We're selfish.
misstepping, that we're
And we're
selfish.
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
sorry if we
Yeah.
have to ask for information. There's a lot of
No.
sorries going
It's
on.
a lot of sorry. We're all
Yeah.
Canadian women. Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
So
I'm
sorry.
Yeah.
But it's true. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I had these weird things that probably people thought were weird, 5-10 years ago, but when we had our private equity investors coming into town, into Ferndale, Michigan, to come visit us, none of the women were allowed to serve them coffee. No, sorry. The
Wow.
men, the engine, go get the engineers out of the back. Tell them to come bring the coffee.
Mhm.
Sit at the table and listen. Even if you don't have anything to say, sit. Right. So there's like these paradigm shifts, but women can look and see and say, there's something here.
Mhm.
And then we set our intention. I don't mean that to say that men don't. Wise men do.
Mhm.
But there's a chimpanzee, methodology versus the bonobo methodology. And if
Right.
anybody knows about that history, the chimpanzees and the bonobos are connected basically by everything genetically, but their hierarchy changed based on the flooding of the Congo River, I think it was. And because they were separated by an event, they became different in terms of how they organize. The chimpanzees are very aggressive, male-dominated. They are a male-dominated system.
Mhm.
The bonobos are not. They
Mhm.
are a female-dominated system, and they all get along. And I won't go into how and why they get along, but they get along in very incredible ways. And it's because they understand. They see, there's tension here. Let's calm that tension, or let's create some, and then let's set the intention over here. So you can actually take the energy that would be charged negatively and transform it into something positive.
Wow.
That's mana.
Well, I want to see how positive and lovely these boxes are. Can you show us what's inside
So
of them?
I wish I had brought big boxes, but I'm going to actually show you something.
They're
They're
Oh my
huge.
goodness.
So each
Yeah.
item is different, right?
Okay.
But I'm going to show you one that I actually have to send in the mail to one of the beautiful advisors. Her name is Catherine. She's been offering her time for free. I had these specially made from one of the suppliers from Monoboxes. And this is the fence from Nelson Mandela's fence that he was looking at while imprisoned.
Oh, wow. I just got the shivers.
Yeah, that's what mana is, right? There is a lot
Wow.
of prayers, I'm sure, going out. And
Wow. It
Oh.
sends an electrical
Yeah.
current
Wow,
through you.
It really does.
as it should, they've been praying over all of these things. And then
Wow.
they've been putting all their intention into them. So, I mean, this is called
Okay.
the resilience ring. Yeah. And this, by the way, is something that's not in this first set of boxes, but I bought it for our women. Catherine being the former Assistant Secretary of the Army in the Obama administration. She was in charge of every single Army installation that we have as the United States military, as the United States Army. Brilliant, amazing woman, and has supported us and stuck with us this whole time, put money toward it. It's just ridiculous. So I wanted all those women to have some of the mana. So I bought these and had them made. Everything that is made that comes with our items, like this one has a timestamp and it says it's a certificate of authenticity. This is just one of the items that would go in the Monobox.
Okay.
This is going to be in the next one.
Oh.
So we have items like one, for instance, and I can't wait for, you saw it, right? The recycled plastic bag.
Mhm.
So it sounds basic, but oh my gosh, hundreds of women were digging out single-use plastic out of landfills and working overtime, loving it. I mean, honestly, because they needed income, and so that's their.
It was an opportunity.
It was a huge
right?
opportunity during COVID, and they took these bottles, single-use plastic bottles, and transformed them into the most beautiful handbags. Not like small little handbags. I mean, like I would travel with this handbag with my computer and all of my drawing equipment and like, all of my searching things that I have in there. I would have it all. And it's all made out of handmade women's recycled plastic that they got out of landfills that would have affected our, generations beyond this. So,
And then you also feel chic and beautiful when you
oh,
have
it's
it.
gorgeous. And that's the thing is like everyone, it's weird. We have this connection to a group in Hollywood called the Environmental Media Association, and the Environmental Media Association, EMA, they are really focused on bringing that celebrity voice to the environmental needs. And so what that means is these celebrities who get involved are really educated on what they're seeing, what they're, what they want to see happen. And so we've been able to kind of channel them and say like, okay, what do you think about these things? Because I know, like I said, I don't have a fashion. I think my fashion is like black and white. It's usually like whatever I can travel and it's easy.
Right.
And so they were saying, oh my gosh, this one. So they went through everything and consulted with us on this to say like, listen, ladies, you have something gold here. We have some incredible things that are going on in partnership activity right now with some celebrities that this will change the entire environment for Monoboxes. And I will look forward to coming back and announcing that.
Yay!
Yeah, I can't
Good.
wait.
When
So tell us, so let our listeners know if they wanted to learn more about the Monoboxes, where they would go.
Yeah. So monoboxes.com. It's MANA boxes.com. Monoboxes.com is where you can order. You can buy a one-off box, which is we only let them go for a limited time. The one-off boxes, meaning we really want people to sign up for the subscription, right? But if you want to take the first box, which is called Journey Through Africa, it's beautiful. You'll be able to get that box and see what these, for instance, by the way, that handmade bag, the plastic is in that box.
So it's all on a website.
It's
So
all on monoboxes.com.
And tomorrow is our big event, our Black and Bling Heartland event for women. And it would be lovely if we could take 12 of these cards to pass out to our lovely women that we share mana with and share the mana.
That's exactly why I brought them, because I wanted you guys to grab some so you had for yourselves.
And I would love to for my daughter.
And then for to pass them around.
Yeah. And then also, guys, don't forget for the Black and Bling, if ladies, local ladies, if you guys are invited and you're guests and you're one of the Zoom Pod ladies, make sure you click on the link. They're going to put it up, the information, to get your raffle tickets for tomorrow. Buy them in advance if you can. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah. And I wanted, so we usually have our guest say something to somebody listening right now. They don't have to go anywhere. They don't have to buy anything. How can they learn about mana right now? What would be the first step to mana that somebody could?
I'd say put in earbuds and search on YouTube meditation, whatever it is, and just try it. Close your eyes, and if it's music or if it's beats or if it's somebody talking, meditation, I think, is the key to our advancement as a society and as a collective. So that to me is the way you get to mana. That's how I got to mana. And it's how mana got to me.
And I think I've been to mana as well. I just didn't know the name for it. Yeah. So thank you for that. And I think It's when you stop thinking and find your thoughts.
I love that no time.
No time.
No
No time
time.
zone. I remember, I think it was Edison too, had a closet, a black closet. He would just go in and shut the door for an hour.
Yeah.
And it would just be dark. He wasn't sleeping.
Yeah.
He was just in there quiet with no time.
Yeah.
And I've been actually experimenting with time. I feel like I move through time differently. People go like, I don't even know how you have that much time to do that. Whatever. I'm like, I feel like time's different for me.
You know,
and
it's
it
funny.
sort of is.
Yeah, I have a company we started in the Pacific called Mana Pacific. And my business partner for that company, we're doing energy projects for 22 island nations. They're building their own energy for them. And it's interesting. I said to him, I said, you know, I feel like you like jump through time. Like you see time from a different perspective. So you're talking over here, but everybody else is over here.
Yeah.
And they can't see where you are because you don't know where you are. You just know that you're there.
Well, that's consciousness.
That's what we called my dad.
Yeah.
You were on a different planet.
Yeah, but that's also consciousness, right?
It is.
Yeah.
That is.
There's it's not linear.
And by the way, that's a whole nother topic we can talk hours about. I have a lot of, I'm a researcher too.
Right.
So I, for the oldest military college in the US. So I dabble in a lot of different things, but I've been researching quantum physics. I've been researching quantum communication and entanglement and
numerology.
Yeah.
It's how all the connections.
It's all connected. So it's just, I think we haven't as humans seen ourselves as part of that collective. And because we've seen ourselves as outside of it, we've tried to destroy it, but we're actually a part of it. If you realize you were part of it, you wouldn't destroy it. Kind of like the earth, you know, if you realize that you were the offspring of the earth, you were the baby that came out of the womb of the earth, you probably wouldn't kill the earth. Right.
Another thing too, Sherri, that I think is good to cycle back to is we have been saying a new model for self-care instead of saying, because as women, we're trained to say, take care of yourself so you can take the best care of others. And we're saying, no, take all of us, learn how to take care of ourselves and teach people how to take care of themselves. And then we all show up as whole and inner mana. It gets bigger and bigger and changing that, the landscape and the language around that we all model self-care. Not so we can take care of other people, so we can take care of ourselves. Everyone taking care of themselves, then showing up whole. What a different world that would be.
There's another term in Hawaii called ahupua'a. Ahupua'a means the collective prosperity of the group. So ahupua'a, it's always a picture, right? As I rise, you rise. As you rise, I rise. It's the interconnectedness, ahupua'a. And so if we live with that, and by the way, that's built into all of our companies that we incubate and birth, is this ahupua'a mentality, is that it's not about profiting those who already have enough profit to do whatever it is that they want, right? It's about using the profit in a healthy and sustainable way that can create a shared prosperity for everyone. And we're going to get there together. We will not drop you off at the back. That's why these 1,800 women are every day texting saying, when's the next one? We're in, whatever you need.
Right.
We'll be there. I'm going to South Africa in May. And they're like, Mish, we're going to, like, I know it's going to be a big party, but face mask party, like COVID. But like, that's how you showed up for us. We're going to show up for you. I didn't show up for them to get anything personally out of it. It was, well, except for not having guilt for not having shown up. That probably was my personal gift.
To step into your thing, right?
It comes back tenfold and just expands and expands.
This is all in the historical text. It doesn't matter if it's the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament, the Sumerian text. What you give comes back in ways you cannot count, measure, or predict. And so if more of us live that way, we would just be, we would all be ahupua'a.
Ahupua'a. I love that. I need to find that picture. Well, on that note, so it was great. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being here.
Thank you for
and bringing your
having
mana to our studio.
Monobox.com.
MANA boxes.com.
Boxes, BOXES.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
All right. And don't forget to go to www.goodfatlife.com and
subscribe for your digital subscription, or you can subscribe and have it delivered to your house.
Nice.
So we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.